Welcome to this webinar. My name is Marzia Bendotti. I'm Italian. I'm a yoga teacher trainer. And I have a studio here in Milano where I live. And of course, I teach Hatha yoga. I am a yoga therapist. I use therapeutic yoga therapy with my students. But my passion, my love is working with children and teens. I've been working with children and teens since 10, 12 years now, not only in my studio, but also in schools here in Milano, where I live. So today, this is the second webinar about these topics. And today we will talk about the teaching techniques and the pedagogy of yoga for children. This is a part of my online TTC that I have in the Arhanta platform. And I would like to share with you the main topics so that you can have an idea of what working with children means. And today we will go through also the differences between teaching to children and teaching to adults. Okay, we will explore how to make yoga engaging, of course, how to make yoga fun and meaningful for children. Because yoga, in my opinion, offers an incredible opportunity for children. It offers benefits for kids, helping them to develop physically, mentally, of course, and emotionally. But teaching yoga to children requires, of course, an approach according to their needs. So I was telling you that, of course, yoga is a beautiful opportunity to help children to develop physically, mentally, and emotionally. Emotions are very important for them, and yoga helps them to recognize their emotions, to see them, and to be able to handle with them. I will try today to share with you my experience, and according to my experience, I will share with you insights on using games, fairy tales, and other activities that I use in a kids yoga class to bring yoga an activity that can be appreciated from children. Okay, so the first topic, I will try to go here. Okay, so this is the goals and the importance of creating a class that is a special class for children. Now we will go through these topics about pedagogical methodologies for teaching yoga to kids. Teaching yoga to kids is, as I have already told you, quite different from teaching to adults. I don't know if here today there are some yoga teachers, but you will all agree with me that teaching to children is completely different. Kids have a shorter attention spans, and they learn best through active play and exploration. In an adult class, you find silence, you find stillness. Silence and stillness are not good for children. They need to move, they need to use their body, they need to play, they need to create with you fairy tales. This is the way you can create a connection with them. So, of course, teaching methods we use need to be creative and child-centered. This is a very important word. So first, let's talk about child-centered approach. This means putting the child at the center of your class. It means putting the child at the center of the experience, paying attention to their needs, interests, and developmental stages. This is also an important topic. I talk about it in my online TTC, because every age has a pedagogical approach, because in every age there are different developmental stages. When we prioritize the child's experience, we can create an environment where children feel valued and engaged. And this boosts their willingness to participate, because remember that you can lose their attention. It's not like an adult that comes to your class, that he knows exactly what he's looking for. Children are not so aware of this, and they need to be involved. And this is your task. This is what you have to do. Another important aspect, in my opinion, is interactive learning. I have told you a few minutes ago, no stillness, no complete silence. Kids love to be involved in the process rather than just observing you. And they need to move, to use their body. Yoga is perfect. This is a very good discipline for this, because it allows children to learn by doing. So instead of just explaining a pose, instead of just showing them a pose, an asana, you can invite them to explore it physically with their body. It means that you can introduce 3 poses, you can show 3 poses, but immediately try to involve them and ask them, how do you feel when you're in this pose? Do you feel the leg standing on the floor? How do you feel your shoulders? Where do you feel your leaves are? So try to involve them with the body and also with their mind, with using their fantasy creativeness. Okay. This is yes, in my opinion, interactive learning is the first thing you have to keep in your mind when you start creating program for children. And last but not least, I want to mention consistency and flexibility. It's really great as a teacher, as a yoga teacher, to have a structure for each class, and not only this, but to have a program, okay? But of course, you can do it also with children, with kids yoga classes, like you choose that you have an open ritual, you have a closing ritual, you have the warming up, you have the time that you introduce a game with the asanas, a time where you introduce breathing exercises, relaxation, and so on. But within that structure, you have to be flexible. Kids like routines, but they also love surprises. And this is very important to keep in your mind. So try to create a familiar structure, but mixed with some fresh activities that can keep them engaged without making it predictable or dull. Otherwise, you will lose them. You will lose their attention. Using games and stories. In the first webinar, I don't know if you have seen it, otherwise I suggest you to see it. We talk about the structure of a typical kids yoga class. So at one point, you introduce games or fairy tales, games or stories, okay? To make lesson, as I told you before, engaging. These two elements add actually fun and make the experience in class much more joyful, I would say. Of course, both games and fairy tales are structured using asanas, breathing exercises, sometimes also short meditations or a moment of relaxation. You can use games, and use them with the addiction, with introducing asanas and yoga elements. You can find my TTC, there are some of them, but you can find also a lot of books with ideas of how to create games and fairy tales for a kids yoga class. So games are an amazing way to teach poses without kids even realizing they are learning something. This is what I call warm cognition. I will explain it to you. It's the moment you are able to create a class where kids have fun and they learn something without knowing that they are learning something. They naturally start to associate the yoga experience with the positive feelings. This is a very, very important topic to keep in mind when we work with children. Whatever you are trying to teach them, help them to create positive feelings, positive emotions, while making this experience with you, and they will remember it. They will remember everything. They will learn without realizing that they are learning. I can tell you about two very simple games I use in a kids yoga class. The first one is the so-called freeze yoga. In this game, I give some cue to them about some asana, about some pose, about a pose, about an asana, and they have to find out the pose and hold it until I start to give a new cue to change it. So this is very helpful for them because they learn, of course, the asana, the pose, but they are also involved in their body. Be very careful to bring them every time towards their body. Help them to feel their body, to learn their body. They will not observe it otherwise. Ask them when, for example, you use this game, ask them to see in the warrior pose how they feel the right leg, how they feel the left leg. Ask them, do you know if your chest is up or down? Ask them, do you know where your breath is now in this pose? So ask them questions when they are in the pose, and then start to give some other cue to change the pose. It's really fun. It keeps them very focused, and it's a way to practice poses with them in a very playful way. Another game I can suggest you, and this is a game that I use with younger children from 3 to 5 years old, is animal yoga, for example, where each child picks an animal. So ask them to think about an animal and then does a yoga pose that represents it. In this way, of course, they they have to, they are involved with their imagination. They start to think about their favorite animal, and they try to represent it using their body. And then you can help them to make a pose out of it. Don't look for the perfect pose, of course, above all when they are very small, but help them to create a connection with their body. Once again, this is as I have told you, this is a game I use with children, very small children from 3 to 5 years old. Yes. So, second point are fairy tales, stories that are also a very powerful tools, because children like to be connected with imagination, and to create with you fairy tales and stories. You can imagine a story about being on an adventure in the jungle, for example. You can help them to imagine the place where they are. So a mat can become a boat, the floor can become a river, and so on. Ask them to imagine they are in a jungle, they are in the mountains, or something like this. You can introduce poses that represent animals that they might see where they are in this place. If they are in the jungle, for example, you can suggest them the lion pose or the snake pose. And while you are talking about these fairy tales, while you are explaining them where they are, what they feel, what they smell, what they see, try to involve, yes, their imagination, but the 5 senses. Okay, this is very important. If you involve the 5 senses, they will feel this experience as real. I try to explain you. It's not that they go home and say, oh, Mom, I was in the jungle today. No, of course, but our brain works like this. If I am using my imagination, I close my eyes, I imagine to be in the jungle, and I try to feel the experience of being in the jungle. I try to touch something, I try to smell something, I see colors, I hear some sounds. If I involve my 5 senses, that experience will be registered in my mind as real. And above all, the emotion I am feeling while living this experience, that can be happiness, that can be joy, will be registered as a real experience. So it's very important to involve their imagination and to involve their 5 senses. Yes, this is a very important point. So when you work with younger children, with smaller children, using songs and rhythms. For example, if you work with 3 to 5 years old children, yes, you can also use a fairy tale. You can also play a game with them, but if you will talk too much, you will lose them. So, how to use songs and rhythms to help them stay focused? You can create simple rhythms to go along with poses. You can so that you can make songs that you can create songs, you can create rhythms, making it easy for them to remember the poses. You can also sing these songs or this rhythm with them while doing a pose. And singing is, of course, a joyful and the playful moment. Okay, it creates singing creates a session, creates a class that feel joyful and playful actually. Okay. Now, adapting techniques for different age groups. At the very beginning, I told you that a kids yoga class is different from an adult yoga class, but also a kids yoga class for children from 3 to 5 is different from a kids yoga class for children from 6 to 9, for example. So you have, when you if you decide to become a kids yoga teacher and to open classes, a program in your studio, you have to create a program and a class according to the age of your student. When teaching yoga to children, you must remember that different age groups have different needs. This is very important. Now, let's go through, let's look at how we can adapt yoga techniques for 3 primary age groups. I divided these techniques in 3 groups. The first one is preschoolers from 3 to 5. For preschoolers, keep it simple and fun. Okay, focus on poses that are easy to remember, that are easy to do with their body, like tree pose, cat pose, downward dog. Preschoolers have really a very short attention spans. So keep activities brief and filled with playful elements. It's very useful to use visual aids, like, for example, colorful cards. I use it a lot. I use it always. I use it when I use them when I work with preschoolers. I use colorful cards with pictures of poses, and this can help to keep them engaged in your class. If you want to create a program for children from 6 to 9, for them, for kids from 6 to 9, you can create a more structured class. What do I mean? Kids can, in between this age, can follow sequences a bit better and are open to trying slightly more challenging poses. You can introduce basic breathing exercises. You can also introduce short pose sequences, for example. At this age, they still love games, they still love stories, fairy tales, but they are also capable of more focused practice. When I work with children from 6 to 9, I use actually cards with colorful pictures of the poses, but in a different way as when I use them with smaller children. When I work with children from 6 to 9, something they really appreciate is I give them the opportunity to choose 5 cards. And then with, of course, 5 poses, 5, 6, it depends on how many children you have in your class. Then they look at these cards and I ask them to create a short sequence. So each child creates his own sequence using his cards. This is very important because you can also see what they need in that moment. I try to be clearer. Usually you start a kids yoga class with the opening ritual, okay, but then you start with the warming up. But you are a flexible teacher, and sometimes you will see that children will come in your class and they will be very tired, and they will be so tired that, one, they need to move, they need to work with their body, with movement, in a warming up to calm down. Or, second possibility, they will need to sit down, they will need to lie down in Shavasana. So I hope you understand this, because this is very important. There is actually a structure, but you have to observe and try to understand today, now in this class, the group, what the group needs, okay? And if you use cards, this is, in my opinion, very useful. I really understand a lot when I observe them and see, okay, he chooses these 3 cards, these 3 poses. And then the order he creates, the sequence, tells me about how he's feeling now, how he's feeling in that moment. So use elements also different from what you have in your class, potions, blankets, mats. Try to use colorful things, try to involve them in creating small sequences, and they will understand it very well. You can explain them how you usually structure the class. Why the warm-up, why the story, why the fairy tales. And you will be surprised that at the end of a year, they will be able to create their own special class and present it to their parents. This is a beautiful experience. Then finally, we can talk also about teens. It's not actually teens, but children from 10 to 12. With them, you can begin to incorporate more structure and mindful practices. Of course, they are older and they have a different awareness, and you can start to introduce a more structure and mindful practices. Yes, they are ready for poses that require more balance. They are ready for poses that require more strength, like warrior poses, for example. And from 10 to 12, they start appreciating partner poses, poses that they do in couple, in two. Here you can, with them, you can also start to introduce guided, simple, of course, guided meditations. This is a great age to start introducing mindfulness and more structured breathing exercises, because they are beginning to understand the connection between breath and emotions. This is a time of their development that they can understand it. Okay. Let's talk about creating a positive and and a safe place environment. Okay. This is also a very important topic but this one is the first. I mean, before you start your program, before you start creating a class, be aware and create a positive and safe environment, a safe place where your children will play yoga with you. A supporting environment is essential when teaching yoga to children, and this is because they need to feel safe, of course, and free to explore without judgment. So, create a non-competitive atmosphere. This is a very important, this is a key point. Unlike other activities, yoga is not about reaching a perfect pose or being better than others in the class. It's a personal journey, and if you explain it to children, they will understand it. So avoid comparisons and try to emphasize self-acceptance. Encourage children to do their best without feeling like they need to compete with their friends. So a non-competitive atmosphere. Another important topic is creating a safe space also means encouragement and empowerment. This is really very important because it's very stimulating for their I'm losing the English word, not awareness, but self-acceptance, yes. Let children know it's okay to take breaks, for example, or modify poses to suit their comfort. When children feel safe to express their limit, they are more likely to stay engaged and develop a positive relationship with the practice of yoga and with their friends in the class and with themselves. So, encouragement and empowerment. Third point, yes, mindfulness and breath awareness. You can introduce elements of mindfulness and breath awareness in small, fun ways, of course. For example, you might ask the children to close their eyes, to take a few deep breaths and imagine their favorite place. Mindfulness can really help children to become more aware of their emotion and feelings and can help them to feel calm and centered. Remember what I told you about how our brain works. But remember, keep it light, short, fun, so that it doesn't feel too serious or intimidating for them. Here I wrote for you some practical tips. 5 practical tips to teach yoga to children. Be patient and flexible. Kids may not always respond as you expect, so be prepared to change your program and to adjust your class as needed. Be patient is really very important. I have told you during this webinar at the beginning, you may come in class, in your class today, and you have, okay, I will do this warming up, then we will work with this breathing exercise, then I choose this game, I choose this fairy tale. They come in, they sit down, or they don't sit down, and you understand that you have to change completely because they need something different from what you thought before you come in class. So be patient and flexible. The second, using visual aids and props You can use colorful cards with poses, as I have already told you. You can use brightly colored mats, even small cushions for seated meditation. Try to create a colorful and funny place where children will live a colorful and fun experience with you. Maintain a light-hearted approach. Try to remember when you were a child and be yourself a child in the class. Play with them. Feel what they feel. Keep the atmosphere fun and spontaneous. Be you yourself, free and spontaneous. If you will be like this, children will respond best to when they to what you are trying to teach them, and they feel free really to be themselves. So they will feel free, they will be spontaneous, they will learn in a positive atmosphere with positive feelings. This is the goal when you start to teach yoga for children. Before I ask you if you have questions, I want to share with you these thoughts. I think that yoga can be really a wonderful gift in children's lives. Yoga can offer them a space to express themselves, to build self-confidence, to find the calm they need to understand who they are. And if we give our children this opportunity, they will become happy adults with self-confidence, adults that will know who they are, where they want to go, the kind of person they want to be. This is for me really a big gift we can give them. And it's really beautiful working with children. They are open-minded. They will give their best in the practice. You only have to be patient. You only have to observe them. They will really create a connection with you if they will understand the two things. You are the adult, but you understand them. You understand because you make the effort to know what they are feeling. This is very, very important. So now we have 10 minutes nearly to, if you have question, if you want to ask me some question.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, hi.
Hello. I would like to know, do you use any kind of other props like balloons or stuff that are not usually in a typical yoga class?
Yes, yes. Above all, when I work with the smaller, yes. An important thing that I didn't tell you, but it was a part of the last webinar, it's, according to your question, creating also yoga lab, the so-called yoga lab. I call the special classes, where, for example, today we create a new fairy tale. We create together a new fairy tale. I start introducing the character and the place where the fairy tale is being created. Then I ask the children close to me to go on to introduce a pose and so on. We create we create together in that moment a brand new fairy tales using also props, not only mats, not only the typical yoga props, but if you want to help them using their imagination, yes, this is a beautiful idea. Not only playful and colorful cards, but also balloon, some colorful sheets that they can use, like I don't know, becoming waves in the sea or something like this. This is a very good idea. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I had another question, but a very typical or like a simple one. But what about bathroom breaks? How do you deal with that, especially with younger children? Or
Yes. At the very beginning of the program, usually in the first class, I introduce some rules.
okay,
So, yes, you absolutely have to do it. Otherwise, it will be such a mess that you can't work with them. So the rules are very clear, very simple, not too much, but you teach them when you come in the studio, your shoes will be left there. And if you need to go to the bathroom, you go immediately after, and then you sit down in the circle and you will stay here in the studio with me. Of course, with me and other children. Of course, if there's some emergency, it's of course different. But create a rules, some kind of rules, and then explain them at the very beginning in the first class.
okay.
Yes, they have to know exactly that this is a safe place, but this is also a place they have to take care of.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Other questions?
Can I just ask if it's possible for us to, I wasn't aware that there was one before this webinar. Is it possible to access the one before?
Yes, I will check and I will ask Arhanta to give you this information. But you should find it in YouTube.
YouTube, okay,
Yeah,
yes.
you should find it in YouTube. Yes, yes. I asked Arhanta to give you these very simple slides that I create in the screen sharing. But this is, of course, something that only to remember the main topics. But I did the same in the previous webinar. But yes, you will find it. I will ask Arhanta to send you an email with everything, if possible.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Ellen. Okay, so yeah.
Sorry, a last question. How do you deal with conflict in between children?
Usually, very good question. Usually, I involve them in teaching. For example, I'm teaching, we're playing, and I'm teaching a warrior pose. I don't know, something, a pose. I'm trying to teach them this pose or to introduce them to this pose. If two children are having some problems together, I will ask them to come. I will not mention the problem. I usually don't like to do it. What are you doing? Who said it? Who didn't say it? Because they will start. Of course, it was not me. It was him. So I never mention the problem. Otherwise, it's a big one. But ask them. I need your help. Please, can you come here with me? Of course, you involve both of them. But you will say, okay, let's say, do you understand it? I was talking about warrior pose. Did you hear it? No, I will repeat. So try to explain to your friend where he can bring the right leg, the left leg, arms, and so on. I try to ask them to help me in teaching. They will feel important. They are my assistants, and they will forget completely the reason why they were arguing.
Yes, super. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you don't have a question, I will really thank you very much for your attention. I hope I help you to clear your mind about this beautiful, really beautiful world. Working with children is really beautiful, and if you learn how to teach yoga to them, you will be very satisfied, not only as a teacher but also as a human being, really. So this webinar will be recorded. You will be able to see it together with the first one. I ask Arhanta to send you all information about it, and also these slides I am sharing with you in my screen. Okay?
Very
much for your attention.
Thank you
very much. And
thank you very much, Marzia.
Thank you. And see you in the next webinar.